Let's go.
You're listening to Making Data Simple, where we make the world of data effortless, relevant, and yes, even fun.
Hey listeners, welcome to Making Data Simple. Al Martin here again. As always, we would love to hear from you, and if you'd like to give us some information, just hit us on almartintalksdata@gmail.com. We do listen, we do take action, and again, please reach out to us. Today, I have Deborah Leff, who's a global leader in industry CTO for the Data Science and AI Elite team. She's an industry specialist for consumer and travel, and I know in her day-to-day, she demystifies AI, which we're all trying to do. So we're going to talk about that. And she supports thousands of sellers around the world to help their clients transform with data science and AI solutions. I know she considers herself modernizing infrastructure. Look, back to the Data Science and Elite team. She's part of this team that we've set up through IBM. But let me pause there. I'm going to let her describe it. Hey, Deborah, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Al. It's a pleasure to be here. I can definitely step in and describe the mission of the Data Science and AI Elite team. Our general manager of IBM Data and AI, Rob Thomas, had the great foresight, probably about 2 years back at this point, to set up a dedicated team of data scientists to work very closely with our clients at IBM's investment to help them be successful with data science and AI agendas. And this has been incredibly successful. We started with just a few data scientists. We're now over 100 data scientists worldwide. And this year we'll probably grow to about 150. And it's been an incredible program because there's so much about data science that's so specific and specialized. And as companies are stepping up and looking for ways to really not just onboard data science and AI initiatives, but to make it really the fabric of their company, the guidance and the advice and the experience that our team brings to the table and partnering with our clients has just served all of us really well.
We were talking before we jumped on the podcast that our CDO, Seth Dobrin, who's been on, I think, 3 or 4 times, 4 times I want to say.
He's still waiting for his jacket.
Yes. So you knew. And I owe him a jacket. We'll get him a jacket. So he said, we had to have you on. He said, you're the best. So tell us why you're the best. He said, you have got to get this woman on now. So that's what we did.
I've always loved transformational technologies. I've spent my entire career doing something transformational. And the power that data science and AI projects have and the impact that they're having is, to me, just, I think you see this type of transformation once in a lifetime. And I can't tell you how happy I am to just be in the thick of it. Seth recruited me into this role. I had come from sales positions as a VP of sales, as an individual contributor, and anywhere on that continuum. And, moving into a role with a CTO title was very daunting for me. And I think there's a lot of studies that will say women don't actually go after jobs unless they match the requirements 100%. And Seth, who's an incredible supporter of diversity and inclusion, was really the one who said, Deborah, you are right for this role. You need to step into it. And it was really his confidence and encouragement that was the real reason why I took that lead.
Here's my first question. What does the Data Science Elite team actually do? Now, I know I got Seth comes in here. He gives me one version, but you've got an eye on exactly what they're doing every day in the trenches, where they're making a difference. What do you guys actually do?
So what I do, I'm not a data scientist on the Data Science Elite team. I'm one of the industry CTOs. So my job is slightly different from the role of the members of the data science and AI.
So hold on, let me make sure. So you've got this team is meant for the customers, and we help customers deploy and figure out how to best leverage or get business outcomes with AI.
A lot of what people ask us for is actually not AI. A lot of what people are asking us for could be just good old fashioned advanced analytics. But it doesn't matter what it's called. What matters is people all across the business are starting to get really creative with how they can put data to work for them. So we always start with, what are you trying to do? If you had a crystal ball that gave you an answer to a question today that maybe you wouldn't have for a week, a month, 6 months, or a year, that might change what you're doing today, what would that question be? What would that answer? What would you want the data to tell you in advance? And that is just sparking so much activity. So sometimes it comes from IT. It's something large and transformational. In retail, it could be something related to supply chain and optimizing the way you're planning inventory or the way you're delivering inventory into physical retail stores. It could be predicting what demand is going to be so that you can optimize for not having too much inventory on hand, but yet not stocking out.
What do the industry CTOs add that the data scientist, whether it's a clicker or coder, doesn't have in terms of expertise?
Our job is to really make sure that we understand all of the use cases that are, things that we've done or things that the industry or market is doing, really becoming experts on what are the best ways to apply machine learning and AI within specific industry segments, so that as we work with the field and with all of our customers around the world, we can have those conversations with the C-suite, with leaders and executives across the business, and help them understand what might be the best investments based upon what they're trying to do at any given point in time. And then once we decide on, what is the use case they're looking for, that's when we bring it to the data science elite team. We staff it based upon what the project needs are, and then work together, co-creating with the client to deliver that project.
What are the most successful engagements that you usually see? I got to believe that ties into demystifying AI.
Successful projects have many different elements. The first and foremost is executive sponsorship, because I don't think that going into working through these projects that people necessarily have an appreciation for how painstaking they are, right? There's all sorts of successes that are being touted and hyped up in the media that make it seem like this stuff is magic, but it's not. This is a very sophisticated, mathematical, scientific process that needs time and iteration. And a lot of projects that quote unquote fail really just pull the plug on them too quickly because somebody who didn't understand the science that goes into it pulled the plug on it too quickly. So that executive sponsorship and the understanding that it is a painstaking process and that it needs time. We take a look at the parts of the process that take longer than they need to or longer than they should because maybe open source doesn't address certain gaps. And we're looking to address those with tools and technology. And that's very important. It's a very important element that we're bringing to the market, that we bring to life through that DSC engagement, because we let people live that firsthand to see where our capabilities can have an impact.
I get with a lot of clients and, they want to get this model in production immediately. And then they find out, hey, that's not easy. And then you've got to have the right tools to keep those models in production. But then some have the expectation like, hey, look, I want you to solve customer churn. I said, okay, great. And they said, surely you've done so many customer churn models, you can just, rubber stamp it and take one from a pre-existing customer and throw it into our environment. And it just doesn't work that way.
That's true. It just does not work that way. Although we have been building accelerators into Cloud Pak for Data that actually do just that. They maybe don't just plug it in and it solves the problem, but the things that are repeatable that we are seeing many customers want to implement, we are including a lot of accelerators in Cloud Pak for Data to help them go faster. As I was saying earlier, that's really a lot of the investments that we've been making is how can we help companies go faster? But even with that accelerator, you are going to customize it and make it your own. And that's part of, the beauty of what data science and AI does for each individual company becomes part of your competitive advantage. And the way that you implement those things becomes very unique to you as a company.
How would you rate the customers that you visit in being ready to implement AI?
So I'm going to tell you, I think everyone is ready. I think if you can articulate a business problem, you are ready. And that feeling that maybe companies don't think they're ready, there's no one who's not ready. The only ones who are not ready are the startups that started today or yesterday and don't have enough data. But every legacy company is ready. It's just a question of taking that leap and moving forward quickly. The things that I think that hold people back, and gosh, I saw this back in, it was like 2010. Do you remember when self-service BI kind of burst onto the scene?
Yes.
So before that point in time, it was very tightly controlled and centralized within IT.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, we've got business users who have access to just tons of data they never had access to before because big data was now a thing and there was tons of data being generated and captured. And they had self-service tools. They could just swipe a credit card and go or use their, Cognos Analytics self-service components. And they were just chomping at the bit to get going. And I remember then, because I was still here at IBM, I remember then the conversations with IT went something like this. Oh my gosh, we love this. We absolutely want to enable self-service. This is going to help our company become data-driven. And so here's what we need to do. We need to build an enterprise data warehouse, and then we're going to build a data orchestration layer, and we're going to enable self-service BI. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds like nirvana. That's perfect. That's what we want. When do we get that? And the IT is like 18 to 24 months. Business couldn't wait. So what they do, they just started downloading their own data and dumping it into Excel or into a database and writing their own SQL queries to go after the data they wanted. And it created just all these shadow environments and just like a ton of mess. But the ones that were successful were the ones that said, we want to start with self-service BI, but rather than get all of our data in order so that it can be used for self-service BI, why don't we first start with maybe some of our key operational reports and get that data into a governed environment and turn on self-service with just those data sets and build in the data needed for those specific requests. And the companies that took that approach created a revolution by evolution, and they were successful. That's what I think is happening here with data science and AI. If you can think of something that's important to you, we have agile methodologies, the garage method, the things that a company can do in 5, 6, 8, 10 weeks are mind-blowing. You just have to believe it's possible. But I'd be hard-pressed to tell you, I don't think that there's a company that's ready for data science and AI. I think everyone is ready. It's just a matter of the way you prioritize.
So I love your answer. Here's what I heard you say. Look, one way or another, you're ready. You may have to start off small. You may have to start off with a specific use case. You may have to start off with a specific data set, but you can still find value, make value, and grow from that point forward if you do it right.
Exactly. And analytics begets analytics. So as soon as you do one thing, no matter how small, when you see the result, it just lights the organization up. And suddenly, now the ideas are absolutely firing.
That's one reason why we went to this microservices architecture, to help promote kind of what you're saying. Because we do find today that clients have data in all kind of disparate locations and silos, et cetera. So we've created this hybrid architecture so you can separate compute and storage as you want to, keep hot or cold data. You can do data virtualization, leave data in some of the repositories you have today so you don't have to move it. You can leverage it where it sits. We'll have a knowledge catalog across all those different data sources. So there's no reason, to your point, that you can't get started at ASAP.
So I will tell you the biggest reason that I think that holds companies back, and I think that is because we've been trained. And I have an article up on Medium called AI Demands a New Perspective. But we have been trained for so long now that when we think of innovation, we think, okay, we're at version 10.2. What should we be doing in 10.3? What is the incremental improvement that we could deliver in a reasonable period of time? And we have been living like that for decades at this point. Think about what you want to be delivering if you were starting from scratch today in a new company or a new business, or how would you design it today? You would actually map out something that could be achieved, not because you took the legacy and you just kept cranking away and stretching it and extending it, but because you actually took the leap forward, modernize a legacy solution so that you could infuse it with AI processes.
Can you give us an example of a client reinventing themselves in the manner you just described?
Yes, actually. I'm going to use this example because our listeners can go out to YouTube and they can search for this and see a complete video about this. But American Airlines created a dynamic rebooking application. And this is an incredible story because it started as, we need to solve a problem. Every hurricane season, one plane load of passengers that gets canceled is incredibly disruptive. When it's a day or two across multiple airports and multiple cities and across a region, it wreaks havoc. They can't avoid the cancellations when there's a hurricane. It's not safe. But what they could do is they could use AI to predict what would be the best possible rebooking situations. These are large legacy systems, but they took the approach, let's go into a clean room and design it as if we can design from scratch. We put resources from both IBM and American Airlines into the same room to co-create. They built that application in a number of weeks, and then they launched it. And they talk about like the fear and trepidation of hitting that button to flip it on, because legacy, app development said this should take months and it should be in Q&A. And they took that leap of faith and it worked flawlessly when they needed it. This is the impact we want to be delivering. You would be amazed that people don't understand that modern technologies, agile methodologies, and AI come together to do incredibly big things in really short amounts of time.
Great example. Just the way the world is gone, every company tends to be a tech company. Given the dollars that are being thrown at data scientists, it's funny how everyone quickly becomes a data scientist. I'm one. I'll raise my hand, that kind of thing. And that's dangerous. And the worst thing that I see with some of the clients that I may be working with is that they're all in. They've seemingly from their side invested, but they don't have the skills and they need help. But, they've already went all in and they're reluctant to get that help because they've already set the course and direction, suggesting that, hey, we've got everything that we need. Anyway, I think that's where staff augmentation, whether you think you've got it or not, really helps because it'll keep you honest. It'll make sure your team is as skilled as it needs to be, and you also get assistance where you need help.
Exactly.
I think that's got to be the path forward.
Exactly. And their team also brings a domain expertise that someone from the outside can't necessarily have. So to me, if you outsource it completely, you could never take ownership of it. It becomes a black box. But if you co-create with your own resources, you can take ownership. You've been involved in its creation, and you could then take responsibility for maintaining it over time. Given the power and the impact that these models can have, making sure they don't become black boxes is very, very key to their success.
What do you think the field will look like in 5 years? So if I'm listening right now as consumer goods and wholesale distribution, if I'm a client out there, I've got to get on this horse very quickly or I'm going to get beat.
Well, I think that message is certainly loud and clear in the marketplace, right? I think there's an awful lot of doom and, oh my gosh, you're going to disrupt or be disrupted. People that say we're headed for a third AI winter because there is disillusionment around what data science and ML can do. And it's for all of the reasons that we've been discussing, right? It's you don't understand how long it takes and maybe pull the plug too quickly, or you don't have executive support, or you underestimate the cultural shift that needs to take place, right? I've worked with large CPG companies who've told me they have built models that predict the best assortment mix for maximum revenue by store outlet, and their salespeople ignore it because they've been working that patch for 10 years, and they just take out the invoice from last month and see what sold out and just re-up it, and they ignore the science. So they're feeling pretty disillusioned, that they're even coming up with great insights, but they're not getting adopted.
Isn't that the truth? It's funny how customer experience or customer service, it always comes back one way or another. You do it well, you'll be rewarded. You do it poorly, you'll be out of business one way or another. With the cabs in New York, the problem I always had is I'm always going to the airport. And the yellow cabs would come up and they'd find out I'm going to the airport and they'd say, no, I got to go. They're not supposed to do that, but they do it. And I'd have trouble trying to get a cab to the airport because a lot of them want to stay on Manhattan, right? So they don't want to leave. But now when I use a Lyft or an Uber, they don't have a choice. So I don't even think of a yellow cab anymore because if I'm going to the airport, I don't want to have to deal with that.
Okay, so, I'm just going to say I'm very fair. So I'm just going to tell you I have that same problem with Uber because I live in New Jersey. And if I'm going into Manhattan, a New Jersey driver is not allowed to pick up a passenger in New York City. So I will call an Uber. They will get to my house. They will accept the ride. They will see I'm going to, and they will cancel it and drive away. So they're even ripe for disruption.
No, everybody's ripe for disruption. There's no doubt about that. Is there any project, just like one that it just caught you off guard? I mean, completely out of the blue, not one of the standard, but something that just you thought, wow, I've never thought I'd be doing this.
Oh my gosh, so many. Yep. So here's a crazy idea. We had a business leader for a cleaning products company tell us that they use a stabilizing product in order to prevent this cleaning product from evaporating. They use the same amount of stabilizer because they don't really know how much to use, but they know how much they need in order to be 100% certain that every single customer has the exact same experience and nothing has evaporated. So they know they're over-rotating on using more than they need to. But if they could predict how long that product was going to be on a truck and what the weather outside was likely to be, they could actually optimize the amount of stabilizer they use and save millions of dollars. That's a project that I wouldn't have seen coming.
There's got to be a lot of similar scenarios like that. Anyway, that's pretty cool.
Well, it's not dissimilar. This one is actually a small craft beer company that was having challenges that when they were filling the bottles, it wasn't filling the bottle to the appropriate amount. And they used an ML model to figure out how they needed to adjust. And it turned out that it was one of their recipes had a specific ingredient in it that was causing it to need a little bit more product in it than the other products.
I mean, the things that you learn as you go along are better in your business. Even if you didn't get that model in production, I think AI has a profound impact in just working through the implementation itself.
Analytics begets analytics.
Analytics begets analytics. Okay, that's a perfect scenario to stop on. By the way, you're very well spoken, ton of energy. You should have your own podcast. You probably should just have this one. I'll just give it to you. So thank you very much. But I always like to get a little bit personal to end. Won't get too personal. What do you do for fun?
So for fun, I love nature photography. I travel all around the world to meet with customers and prospects and people that just want to talk about data science and AI. I use all of my frequent flyer miles to travel to really far-flung destinations with my family and my camera, and love nature photography.
Where can we go view that? Do you display it anywhere, or is this only for you?
No, it's actually, I have a personal Instagram account that you can actually see. It's just Deborah.Leff on Instagram, and you're more than welcome to come check it out. You
ever been on a safari?
I have.
Oh, and I bet you got some pictures of that too?
There are on the feed. I really just use it for nature photography, but you will get to see all sorts of images from around the world.
Who is your number one role model not related to you?
Who is my number one role model? Oh, God, I'm not allowed to say Seth Dobrin, am I?
No, don't say it. He just gave me a big head. Do not do that to me.
Okay, but I have learned so much from Seth. I'm sorry. I really have.
I threw up in my mouth just a little bit. Sorry.
Tremendous amount.
So you're going to go with Seth, really?
Yes, I am.
All right. I noticed in your background, you don't have a data science degree. You don't have an engineering degree. How have you been able to do what you've been able to do? Because now you find yourself as, an industry CTO. So first, Al, I'm going to tell you that I hope you and our listeners will head on over to LinkedIn and connect. I have an article on my LinkedIn that I wrote last year for International Women's Day. And I'm trying to pull it up real quick because I want to quote something. There was an author who said that if you learn an hour a day, I'm going to probably mess this up, so please forgive me, within like a couple of years, you will become proficient in that subject. But like within 4 years, you will become an expert. And within 8 years, you'll be one of the best in the world. There's nothing I want to do more that in that hour a day than learn these topics and these subjects for this job role. And so I may not have a degree that I would have attended for a finite period of time at a specific institution. When you're committed to something
and you want to know the subject matter as much as you can, you go out and you find those resources that can educate you, and you write your own curriculum. A lot of women come to me, younger women, that say, I think I might need to go back and get an advanced degree in order to do what I want to do. And my advice to them is you create your curriculum. There are so many resources. There's Coursera, there's O'Reilly, there's master classes. There's nothing you cannot learn if you set your mind to it.
Wow. I'm gonna end there because I don't think we can better that. You are fantastic. And where I will reluctantly, but I've got to give Seth full credit, is that he's got a great read on strong leaders and those that will also be great on a podcast, because we're looking for inspiration here, and certainly you give it. So, by the way, I got to recruit you or something. You are absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I think the listeners are going to take a ton from this. We may even have to make this into a two-parter. I learned a lot. Before we close, where should our listeners go to learn any more about you? We got your Instagram, I think it was.
Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm constantly posting some thoughts and commentary on things that are going on in the marketplace. It's a very easy place to connect.
We'll put it in the show notes as well. Again, Deborah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Listeners, take that. Until next time, I'll see you on the podcast, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Making Data Simple podcast, where we make data fun. Be sure to visit ibmbigdatahub.com/podcast to access the show notes and uncover even more great episodes. Remember, the views expressed here are those of the host and its guests, and do not necessarily represent the views of IBM. Until next time, let's go. Over and out.